Save us all. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, we'll put him right on video. Mm-hmm. That's it. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
But do you really think, I think, right, the ultimate ticket, right, would be an independent ticket with no party affiliation, and you have Kanye, Will Smith, and The Rock, all three on stage running for president.
Ooh, that
is
tough. That is
let
tough.
a debate go on and let them rock.
Okay. I mean, I wouldn't go with The Rock because he has no... Come on, let's be honest here. He has no political...
But wasn't Reagan an actor before?
Yeah, but he was a governor.
He was a governor.
But I'm just saying, he was an actor.
He was an actor, yes. Jesse the Body Ventura, actor.
What about Arnold?
Arnold Schwarzenegger, actor.
So you can't disqualify somebody.
I'm not disqualifying. I'm just saying.
Because was Trump a politician before he got into the game?
No.
Poopity scoop.
He was an author.
Poopy doopy poopity scoop. Kanye West 2020. I see that vision.
Did you see him when? I'm saying. Did you see the? Who was it? Not Jerry. No, David Letterman.
Yes, I saw that.
With him?
Yes.
There's nothing going on in his head. Dude, he's a musical genius, but he is just bland.
Listen, no, he's not. Because I actually watched that interview. Bro. The stuff he says is actually, if you really listen to, the guy classifies himself as bipolar, which he has all the...
But that's because you're putting the meaning in his words.
No, but like he's a narcissist for sure.
Oh yeah.
For sure. Yeah. But if you really look at the beginning of Kanye West to where he is now, okay? He's had a huge impact on music. He's had a huge impact on culture itself. And now he's just kind of riding the coattails of his past success. And now he's like actually speaking up about a lot of stuff. He says a lot of stupid stuff. Let's be honest.
Oh, yeah.
He does a lot of stupid stuff. Yeah. But it's like, if you, I actually listened to a lot of things he said.
Have you seen the video of him in the White House with Donald Trump?
Yes. He looked like...
oh, my God.
Yeah.
And SNL, when they made fun of that, it was completely accurate.
Oh, yeah. Completely accurate.
It was completely accurate.
If you guys want to check it out. Saturday Night Live, Kanye Trump, Donald Trump, Kanye West. White House. Look it up. It's really funny. But really, really funny.
My thing is this. Watching that interview and the things he was saying about how things are in our DNA. He kept saying, it's in my code, it's in my code, it's in my code. Mm-hmm. When we really look at society as a whole, from the time that we're born, there's codes being put in our minds. Like, if you have a child, right, and you have one of those little bouncy things, the bouncy chairs, what do you do? Where do you put the kid when they're in that bouncy thing? You put them in front of the TV, right? Most people do. Most parents put their kid right in the little swing chair. We put them in front of the TV. You know what that's doing to our minds? It's putting stuff into our DNA, both consciously and subconsciously. All the commercials, the music, there's hidden messages in all of these things. And whether you want to believe it or not, from the time that we're born until the ages that we are now, we have all of these things locked into our subconscious. So the things he was saying were very, profound, because it's like people go, oh, Kanye West is crazy. Let's not listen to him because he says a lot of outlandish stuff. But if you really listen to the stuff he says, you know what I mean? It's real.
Yeah, but dude, you have to be kind of loony, right? I mean, I'm not saying that the Make America Great hat is, the symbol of racism in my eyes. But to a lot of people, especially the African American culture, see that and go, it would be like someone grabbing a Klansman hat and putting that on, saying I know it's a Klans hat, but I'm gonna rock it. Oh, this Klansman robe right here. I know it's the robe, but I'm gonna rock it. He just went too overboard with that.
I feel like he does this stuff to people are like, oh, he supports Donald Trump, but I feel like he was kind of weaseling himself into sort of politics to kind of get that support. But I think he's, like you said, Donald Trump was pulling the wool over America's eyes, right?
I think he was doing a reverse Eminem, if you ask me. I think he was just like Eminem got the African American people to start watching him. I think Kanye was trying to get the rich white kids to listen to him, just to open up
video
his
feed.
Yeah, we lost video feed real quick.
I mean,
I respect that you think he's a genius. I think lyrically he's a genius.
I mean, I just listening to the things that he said and all the interviews that he had and all of these different things, like when they mocked him when he was talking about he's a god, and he's like, I thought I told you who I was. I'm a god. Stuff like that. And he said a Bruce Lee quote that you have to be like water, which is another profound statement. And if you don't know that quote, look it up. Be like water is actually a very deep quote. But he says all of these things. He says it's in my DNA, like Wreck-It Ralph. Like society was telling Wreck-It Ralph he can only do one thing, right? Mm-hmm. In the movie, that's something that was said. You never saw it. Well, you should go watch it, and so you can understand what Kanye West is talking about.
Oh my god!
He said, it's in my DNA, but that's what we're told that what we can and can't do in society. That's what the government tells us. We can't do this. We can't do that. A lot of people don't reach their full potential because all our lives we're told we can't achieve something. But it's on a subconscious level. Like if I were to tell you or you to tell me, oh man, I just saw Paul down the street. He's making tons of money doing this. And I said to you, oh, well, you can't do it. You can't do it just because Paul makes it look easy. You can't achieve that. So then that goes into your subconscious like, well, damn. I can't do that. So that's what he's saying. Like it's in our DNA because as people, we can't achieve our goals because there's other people saying that we can't.
Yeah, but I think the greats that we talk about sometimes, the Kobe Bryants, the Michael Jordans, the Tom Bradys, these people, when they were told they couldn't do something, just like you said, they went above and beyond. Did you ever hear? There's a guy out there. He's an inspirational speaker. His name is Eric Thomas. Did you ever hear Eric Thomas? Mm-hmm. Fantastic guy. He's on YouTube. He's like top 5, top 10 motivational speakers. He talks about how there's gazelles and there's cheetahs. The gazelles, when they see a cheetah, they run from it. They say, "Oh, that's a cheetah right there. I'm afraid of it. I'm wired to run from it." As where a cheetah is going to run after because it's food, it's hungry, it wants to feed it. He goes, some people are wired differently. He goes, we're wired differently. And I think that you can change how you feel and how you believe, but you have to actually step into it.
But it takes deep internal work. Like before we were talking, it all comes from within. But most people don't realize that the damage is so... Fear comes from a place. It doesn't just come from anywhere. Fear comes from your first moments from childhood, being around your parents. The things that you're a parent, I'm a parent. The things that we're supposed to install in our kids' minds right off the bat is to love themselves, right? Mm-hmm. So when they go out into the world and they're out there and they encounter bullies, the teachers are saying they can't do this. People in their lives, jobs say they can't do this, they can't do that. What do you think sinks into their subconscious? Why do you think they become the gazelle?
Like if you think of it, I mean, fear is learned.
Yes,
it's a learned. Absolutely. Definitely, it's a learned thing because when you grow up, regardless of where you were, I grew up in a poor. I grew up in a ghetto, man. I grew up in the ghetto. Mm-hmm. But I grew up in a one-person household. Like my mom took care of me and my brother. And, you learn to appreciate things a lot better. And that's the key word, learn. You learn to appreciate things more.
But see, most people don't realize that. Most people don't realize, like, when the damage is done that deeply, they just only know one thing. That's why when most people have emotional issues, detachment, and things like that, it's learned because of the people that are around them. Most people can detach from being that type of person, but a lot of people get stuck. They feel stuck because they're like, oh, if I try to improve myself, the people in my circle are going to be like, well, why are you doing that? Why are you branching out? You should stay here and do this. If you really analyze it, when people say, all right, I'll use like Boys in the Hood as an example, or you know what I mean, something like that. Ricky was supposed to be a star. He was supposed to get out of the ghetto. He was supposed to be, you know what I mean. And in his environment, what happened? Ricky got shot in the back because of some stupid event.
Spoiler alert. I've seen
It all comes from a place of fear. When people say, "Oh, I'm going to go out into the world and I'm going to do this," and then someone shoots them down.
Sure.
That's what happens. They go, "Oh, maybe I can't do that." Most that's how it goes. People, you say, "Oh, there's a cheetah or there's a gazelle." Yes, that's a great analogy. But when fear takes over a person's life because it's learned, it's hard to break out of that.
Well, I think a lot of that stems from racism as well. You know, being in a culture where you're in a lot of mixed cultures. You know, you're sharing it with Indian, Asian, Black, white, like no matter where you are, I think a lot of people tend to love being multicultural if you're growing up around multicultural. But if you're just growing up, let's say, black in a black neighborhood and you are black, you tend to just say, oh, it's black culture. Then when it's white, growing up in a white neighborhood, it's white culture.
Like, I felt like I'm doing something now that I never thought I would be able to do with starting my own comedy series, starting a foundation for people with mental illness. Because I didn't want to do a lot of these things because of fear. Fear controls everyone in the world.
It does.
It does.
I agree.
It really
with
does.
that.
Fear. It's fear. It's self-doubt. It's self-hate. It's too much of it. It's too much self-hatred. That's all it is.
But I think that, just like you said, for example, for every Robert F. Kennedy, right, that tried to gel the cultures of African Americans and white Americans at one point in time through a hard time with his brother getting assassinated, Martin Luther King getting assassinated, and all these other things were these people trying to give ideas that we could be more than just color. We can transcend. Your kid and my kid can sit on a playground and play with each other because we have an open mind.
Yes,
but our kids couldn't sit in the same baseball field as someone else if their father's screaming, hey, it should be segregated. I think it's like you said, like
it's learned.
The people that went into those schools and the people that sat at the kitchen table and the lady that, I'm not saying lady, but we all know Rosa Parks sat in the back of the bus.
I knew
you know what I mean?
I mean, she's a perfect example, though. Yeah. She's a great example.
And I think as a whole, like, people will say racism is still alive, and it still is. I mean, obviously, it's still going to. It's not something that we've
learned hatred, though.
But
learned hatred.
But do you know where it comes from? Do you know where racism comes from?
I think there's racism on both sides.
Fear. Racism comes from fear.
Yeah.
I
mean, it's definitely multicultural. It's not a one culture being hated and then the other culture hating back.
But do you understand why there is prejudice in the black community? Do you understand why there is that feeling? Because when you're like coming from where I'm black. I'm 100% black. I'm not mixed. I'm not mixed.
On some forms, you're Caucasian.
Yeah, shut up. But no, like from where I'm from Philadelphia. Okay, I'm from Philly. Now, the neighborhood that my grandmother lived in, very rough neighborhood. Okay, cops will come through, searching people, going through stuff like that because they're looking for drugs, they're looking for guns, whatever. Sure. Okay, so growing up in that environment and being oppressed by people that are supposed to protect you. You see that. Okay, I'm being searched for no reason. I'm just existing. I'm a good kid. I'm doing whatever. From being a child and then growing up into being an adult and experiencing that, most people don't understand that what happens is now I grow up and I'm afraid of the police. It doesn't matter if it's a white person that's a police officer, a black person, whoever. I'm afraid of the police because it's a form of oppression. Okay, it's learned. Fear, learn. It's the same thing. So now I have my own ideas and ideologies about prejudice and racism and things like that because I've experienced it firsthand many, many times. Do I go, oh man, I don't like white people because like sometimes I'm kind of like weary a little bit because of the things that I've experienced because I've been called the N-word by close friends that I consider friends behind my back. People that someone that I dated called me that.
But I think it should be banned altogether, the N-word. Like, I don't even think it... Like, I understand that rappers and gangster rappers used to use the N-word, and they would say, we're going to make it ours. We're going to own it. And I'm not saying that I don't respect that thought process. But in the same aspect, I think it should be completely taken out of the entire culture. Like, my nephew has a friend who's black, and he said the N-word to his friend, right? And I got offended by it, and I went and told his mom, and his mom was like, well, that's just how this generation is. It's because of the culture that's being in place and put in front of them that allows them... how many rap albums do you have where they don't use the N-word? Like Tupac, and I'm a big Tupac fan. I go back to Tupac and it was what they used. You know what I mean? Okay, so it's supposed to be a difference between an ER and an A. And to me, it's the same word, no matter how you say it. It's just a different twist.
Phrasing.
You know what I mean? Yeah, and I think as a whole, I think things like that should all be banned from the... Like, if you are going to attack racism at its head and try to cut the head off of the snake, you got to attack it every time it's called out. Like, no matter who says it, it's not accepted in the culture. And I think slowly we're turning that way. But in certain areas like the South, you're never going to change that. Like if you look at it, the South